Well, I'm very pleased to say that we've managed to track down Jess Hull on the other side of the world, newly minted Australian record holder, to go with her new Australian 5,000 metre championship. Jess, congratulations. It's been a whirlwind few days, but you must be pretty happy with life at the moment.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been crazy. It's been quite overwhelming. Like every time I sort of get back to some Wi-Fi, the phone is just kind of going crazy, which is it's so like that's so like lovely to me is that everyone has sent their congratulations and everything and their support and they want to know what's next. So it's exciting to have so many people coming along with me, even though I'm over here with just my team and my coach and my physio. So it's nice to have everyone here with me even when they're not and got to celebrate a little bit on Saturday. What day is it? Today is Monday. Yeah, Saturday. My team and I, because we got to stay in Monaco a few extra days, we got to take a little boat trip around and see the coast. So that was nice to kind of reset the mind and the body. And that was like, I mean, I was like kind of like, oh, I want to keep going now because I'm get ready for some 1500s. But when I look back, I think most of my training through COVID was aimed at this race in particular. And coach was really big about me taking the day afterwards to just reset and like use the adrenaline that we and the momentum we got from it, but really reset and enjoy the moment. So got to celebrate with the people who know how much work goes into it every day.
Well, there's a lot worse places to relax than on a yacht in Monaco. So it's probably one of the better ways to spend time. I had to settle for swimming in the beach. I didn't get a yacht when I was over there, but that probably says more about me than it does about you. So anyway, before we get to the playground of the rich and famous, why don't we just take a step back? So a little bit earlier this year, before the world got turned on its head, you were down in Melbourne running the Australian title. I think that was actually your first proper 5,000 metre race, if I remember correctly. Is that
It
right?
was my first championship 5K. Yeah, I'd run like I guess what was still a time trial kind of effort in September 2019, 1st of September. But yeah, that was my first championship 5K. So it was definitely different going in knowing that it was more important to try and take the win than it was to try and run fast. So I think my efforts in the 5K prior to Friday night had been kind of less intense in a way, like different focus points to just redlining, more focusing on competing. So yeah, that was the first championship one I'd run.
Well, I think going into that race, many of us had talked about how deep that field was in Melbourne, and you
Yeah,
obviously just missed that 15-minute barrier, but won your first Open Australian title in
yeah,
5,000 metres, and I think obviously qualified automatically for what was then a scheduled Tokyo Olympics at the time. And you must have been thinking that this sort of longer stuff is something you might be okay at, albeit I think the focus was still the 15.
I think if you ask me, I would still say the 15. But I know Pete's process behind it all was I am very underdeveloped strength wise. And to really set the foundation for a strong 1500 future, I had to get better at the longer stuff. And we sort of used that first year out of college to bridge that, like, compared to what I can do now, the workouts and the racing from the longer distance standpoint were not very good. We really knew that we could strengthen that area pretty strongly. So we've focused on that a lot since I joined Pete, but I think at heart I'm definitely still a 1500-meter runner.
Well, I think if this is you underdeveloped at the 5K, that's pretty scary for everyone else. So, but so you win your maiden national championship at the 5,000 metres, and all plans are set to go to the international season. We'll obviously run nationals in Australia first, and then
Yeah,
go to the international season and try to hit that 1,500 metre qualifier. And then, of course, the world got turned on its head. You were back in the United
yeah,
States, getting your home away from home now, and the world changed.
yeah, it did it, and it changed really quick at once it got to that point. So I think when I came home for the 5K, I was kind of like didn't even really realize how much of an impact COVID was having at any point in the at any place in the world, and that was the first week of February. And then within about 2 or 3 weeks after getting back to the US, it was like, well, this is really serious. And the masks started popping up more frequently, and people were quite nervous on flights and stuff like that. And yeah, then March kind of came, and it was just like, how is this year is not going to look like we all thought it was going to. That
So you end
became
up
pretty quick.
so you end up back on a plane back to Sydney, your home, down Wollongong Way, south of Sydney, for those not from New South Wales. And that was in the glory days where you didn't have to hotel quarantine, you had to self-isolate at home. But just talk us through your experience with, COVID, in particular that first couple of weeks of, having to self-isolate at home, and then training. Obviously you'd normally be in the US with your quite extensive professional team, and now you're back running around the home cross country course at Kembla Joggers.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I definitely am very grateful that I was at home during all of the lockdowns. I think I was surrounded by my family and my fiance now. So to actually be in the same place as them when everyone had to kind of just be keeping to themselves was much better for me mentally. So I was lucky that I was able to come home. But yeah, it was kind of when they cancelled nationals, I went on my break and I was still in the US at that point. So I wasn't going to come home. And then it started to get a bit scary of like Scott Morrison sort of saying, if you're an Australian and you want to come home now. So I did decide to come home, but by that point I'd already taken about 10 days off running as my reset kind of thing, leading into then the next build up to Tokyo, what we thought was coming. So by the time I got home, I'd had a break, and then I was restricted to 2 weeks of isolating at home. So I just started to get the miles back in on the treadmill, which was not super fun. And I think my mom and Daniel, who were at home with me during the isolation, because mom could work from home, and we kind of just, that was it. Like, we didn't leave the house. Dad kept working, so he wasn't able to stay with us, but he would bring us all the supplies. And I think that was very testing for both of them, because I was definitely not the best version of myself punching out a long run or 8x800 on the treadmill, because it was just torturous. It would get so hot and just like mind-numbingly boring, but I got it done. And I definitely appreciated getting back outside after my 2 weeks and kind of hit the ground running. Once I got out of self-isolation, I got the mileage back up to normal, and I had I think I looked at it and I counted back, I had 17 weeks of just like totally consistent training where I ran the same number of miles every week. I hit the 2 workouts really strong. My long runs were like really strong. So I knew that the work was there, and I think the whole way through I just kept the momentum going, in that like, I am 23. If I have 12 extra months to get ready for the Olympics, I'm going to make those 12 months count, because when I'm there, well, as long as we're there next year, I have some big goals. So I knew that whatever I was doing was not wasted. But it was definitely a few times there where it's been a big learning curve. Like, you kind of just roll with the punches, and you learn that not every day has to be perfect. But I actually really enjoyed stacking the training weeks together and kind of embracing the grind, instead of like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired and I'm racing next week, like I need to recover. I kind of embrace the mentality of like, if I'm tired in a workout and I can't hit the splits, that's okay. Like, as long as it's not happening every single workout. But yeah, I kind of just put my head down and I worked really hard, and I went into quite a few workouts very tired, but it takes you to a new level. Like, you learn how to self-talk your way through them and figure out how to just keep them turning when they hurt and practice all those good things that we need to be able to do when we're on the start line. So it was a good way to kind of like reset and train with a different intention than it was to kind of be like preparing for something specific for a while there.
One of the questions a lot of us who follow the sport and distance running in particular have been asking is what effect this period would have in terms of people doing much longer bases and really having the time to put a base together, where, particularly for the Southern Hemisphere athletes of our nationals in, March, April, and then straight into the European season for an August global title. Oftentimes you don't get that chance to build a long base, and it seems like it's borne fruit for you.
Yeah, that's it. And early on during it all, Pete and I sort of talked, and we come up with the plan of like, really, since I joined him in June last year, I hadn't really focused on getting fitter in a sense. We'd focused on getting faster and trying to race better. So we just kind of used April, May to just really build the base and get stronger and start punching out the, like, actually having to do a 5 mile tempo and stuff like that, which has been on the program a few times, but had always cautiously been reverted back to a 4 mile tempo right beforehand. So being told that, yep, 5 miles and go 5 miles. We had an opportunity to do those kinds of things. And I think Pete sort of told me, I think it was exactly 9 weeks before Monaco, that I had a place on the start line as long as the meet was going to go ahead and I could travel. So that allowed us to put together a lot more specific work from that point in time. So I had the base work in at that point, and then once you have that like elusive end goal, that those next 9 weeks got super specific, and the workouts all started to mean more because I was getting ready to come over here and race this 5K.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the tune-up, because I think the main sort of hit out before that was a 3K at the Crest on the home track at Bankstown, and you joined in that as the Steigen World 3K Challenge with Lauren Reed and Chloe Tyne Young, Sarah Baker from UTS. So just the four of you on the line, and the Cole Whitbread mantra of "it never rains at the Crest" was put to the test. It was a cyclone, but nonetheless, you managed to run 8:41 in what was just horrendous conditions, albeit with male paces. But I think that gave us all a bit of a sign of what you might be able to do in this season.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, that 3K was just so long in the making. Like, to get an actual racing opportunity it didn't matter if it was like snowing or sleeting that night, I was going to run fast because I was just like, I've been waiting for this and I've got to get out there and make the most of it, because I knew whatever I did that night was going to set me up for what was coming on Friday. I knew the 3K split within this 5K was going to be insane. So I had to do something that was going to prepare me for that. And yeah, it was just I would say more of a mental step forward, that 3K was, because it was like, I didn't care about the rain. I didn't think about the rain. I was just like, I can run 69s, 70s until I can't, and I want to see how far I can go at that pace. So it was a good little hit out and a good little tune up, and reminded me of the feel of racing when I tried to go to some gears in the last 600 and I didn't quite have them that night. But I think I was all the more better and ready for Friday night because I was able to do that and have the help of you guys to put that on, and Jesse and Luke to pace me. That was just it just shows that it's not just me out there on Friday night. Like, so many other people went into it with me. So it's very lucky.
James Constantine will be pleased to know that with the pacing duties of the track sessions, he's been claiming credit for it all weekend. So,
like James Constantine, Will Austin Cray, Alex Seal, Liam Henderson, or Scotty Hamilton, he crushed a few with me down in Wollongong. Like, it's not just me when I stand out there. I'm like, these guys are giving up all their time. I've got to go and show them it was worthwhile.
So, I mean, you leave Australia in a pretty positive frame of mind from a racing perspective, but you also get engaged to your longtime partner, Daniel. So I imagine you left on a high.
Yeah, I did. I didn't see that one coming. My dad did, because he told my dad he was going to do it, so he couldn't back out. Yeah, but I think I guess considering we've spent a long time apart over the years, with me being at school and him being back in Australia, was the 6 months kind of thing with quarantining. He didn't change his mind. So
well, if you managed to tolerate your mileage on the treadmill every week, which is a bit longer than the rest of ours, it probably bodes well.
Even that's so much, yeah. And all those miles on the bike with me and kind of learning how to pace me on the track. I even gave the reins to him a few times. I hadn't done that yet, but 400 repeats and he would take the wind for me, and I started to trust it. So for so long I've been like, no, I don't trust your pacing, but no, it was good. It's been fun to kind of incorporate him more into the daily training stuff, because he doesn't get to see that all the time either. So yeah, very, very happy.
Makes you a team in a few senses of the word. So you
Yeah,
get over to Europe. Things are looking well. I think it was relatively non-hyped, for want of a better term. I mean, we obviously knew that a few of you were going over to race Monaco,
yeah,
but I don't think anyone really had a great degree of expectation. I very deliberately didn't talk to you, but I did talk to your dad about it, and your dad was quite confident that the Australian
yeah.
record was on the cards, but I thought I might just keep that to myself. What were your expectations going into the race? What did you think you could do?
Yeah. Well, so I obviously had 14:47.6 on my mind, and probably not to my advantage on my mind during the race as well. And I had spoken to Pete about it and my training partner Shannon, who was also going to be in the race, and both of us had run. Shannon had run an 8:40 3K about a week before I did the Steigen 3K. So and if actually, since we've all kind of been in the same place and we've been able to chat more so about our training, Shannon and I's training has been identical from two different hemispheres. So that was kind of encouraging to know that like we were both in the same shape and we were both ready to roll. And both of us had kind of known that we could probably handle 70s for as long as it was as for a long time, and hopefully maybe potentially we could handle 70s the whole way, which if you break that down, 70.0 the whole way is 14:35. So I knew I had some wiggle room. I think 71s perfectly was going to be the Australian record. And I talked about it with Pete, and he knew that that was what I wanted to do. But he also was quick to remind me of like, I haven't broken 15 minutes before, and you can't skip the 14:50s and you can't skip the
The
14:40s and just
1440s as well. Straight to
14:35 as well.
1435.
So he was really like smart about it with me, and he just sort of once we talked numbers earlier in the week, we didn't talk about them again. And when he gave me my race plan on Thursday evening, he said, "We didn't come this far to just come over here and just make up the numbers. Like, I just want you to run as hard as you can for 5,000 meters tomorrow, to the point that if it's 5,001 meters, you are on the ground, blacked out, done," which I was after 5,000 meters. So,
I imagine for a
uh,
1500 meter runner, that's most 5Ks.
yeah, yeah. So, I knew the record was possibly on the horizon, and the people close to me knew that I really wanted to have an attack at it, but I didn't want to put that out there into the public knowledge, considering like I haven't done anything that is anywhere near it before. So I knew it was going to be uncharted territory, and Benita holds it, and she is incredible and has so many accolades to her name that like I knew it wasn't going to be easy and a walk in the park. And just because I think I can run 70s all day, I will be able to. Like, I knew that I had to respect the fact that that was going to be incredibly difficult, and just go out there and sort of see what I could do. And if I blew up with the K to go, I had nothing to lose. So yeah, it was just a matter of that could happen, and I'm going to do everything I can to try and make it happen. But if it doesn't, there'll be plenty more opportunities in the future.
We'll come to Benita shortly, but let's talk about the race itself. So it got strung out very early on, that the pace was on from the outset. The world champion at 1,500 metres and 10,000 metres, one of your teammates, Farnasan, actually pulled out of the race. And of course, Helena Beery, the world champion, went on to win it.
Yeah,
But talk us through the race itself. You obviously weren't up with, Beery and Hassan, but it just sort of, you were in that nice little pocket and did a lot of the work with Shannon, your teammate. So just talk us through the tactics of the race itself and how it played out for you.
yeah. I think we stayed kind of basically connected through 3,000 meters, and Pete had told me that so initially in the week they were going to go for the world record, and then they were like, no, 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 we're going to drop the pace back to 70s. And then they were like settled on the pacemakers were going to go 69s. And Pete sort of just said, he said, we got nothing to lose here. Like, if you go out and cop a few 69s early, like, that's okay. Let's just like don't get stressed and just relax. And I knew I should not see any splits, because I knew as soon as I saw the clock, I was going to be like, oh my gosh, how am I going to run another 8 laps or whatever it is at this pace? And I did see the mile split, and it was 4:37. And for me, that was lead pack probably was about 34, 35. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that actually feels pretty good for 4:37. And then I told myself from there, I was like, because I had broken the race down into get through 8 laps and then get through 2 laps and then just try and finish. So I knew from there, I told myself, I was like, okay, for the next 4.5 laps, you do not get dropped. And I just hung on to the back of, Eilish McColgan was leading Shannon and I at that point, and Beatrice Chepkoech, the steeplechaser, was also with us. And we went through 3K about 8:45, and I was like, okay, here we go, like 2K to go. And I actually felt really good. And I was like, I know it's coming. The monkey's going to jump on. Just where is it? And we kind of came around. And the beauty, like, obviously, you want everything to be that perfect Monaco magic with the whole, you get the full crowd and the full atmosphere. But with the limited crowd this year, one of the good things about that was I could hear Pete the whole time. So he was standing on the 1,500-meter start line, and he sort of waved Shannon after 3K, so 3,100 in. He sort of said, let's go by, because it was starting to slow in front of us. And so Shannon took it on from there, and I knew I just had to commit to what she was doing and just stay connected to her. And then we come around with a mile to go, and we've come up to the 1,500-meter line, and I was like, okay, this is where I know how to run a 1,500. Like, I can do this. And then Pete calls out from the sideline, just take a lap. And I was like, because it was just Shannon and I left in our little pack.
Yeah, I actually read a post from Pete who put something up on social media over the weekend, and said he was very proud of the fact that you were prepared to take the race on at that point when he called for you to go around Shannon and take up the running.
Yeah, well, I didn't know at that point. I think as soon as I heard him say that, I just felt like, oh my God, this got so hard immediately. But I did it. I was like, okay, in my head, I was just like, even if you take 200 meters, if you're slowing down, like, it's going to help Shannon a little bit, and she'll just go around if you can't do it. So yeah, I went around and I took, I think, about 800 to 900 meters, and then with 600 to go, Shannon went back by me again, and I have never been so thankful for some help in my life, because I seen the split with a K to go, and I was like, okay, I need to run about a 3:02 to be under the Australian record. And I actually thought to myself, I don't know if I can do that, because that's like 72's pace, and I was like, I'm probably going to start running 80s here. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And thank goodness for Shannon, with 600 to go, she went back around, and I was just like, okay, just stick right here, like, or just stick right here for another 400. And if your last 200 isn't good, that's okay. And obviously, once you hit the bell and you hear that bell, you're like, okay, I can do anything for another 70 seconds. And was able to come around. And then with 150 to go, you could see the clock on the top of the straight there, and it had just stopped at Helen's winning time, and I was like 14:22, and I just thought to myself, gotta go, because I couldn't calculate in my head in that moment what that meant I needed to run. I was just like, sprint. And opened it up down the home straight, and I was pleasant. I didn't think it was going to be 14:43. I thought it was going to be a lot tighter than that, but when I crossed the line and I seen 14:43, I was very, very, very stoked. And then once you get that initial elation, you start to be like, oh my God, that hurts so bad. I don't think I've ever laid on the track after a race like that before. And next thing I knew, Genevieve was right there, and I was just like, wow, I've probably been laying here for about 2 minutes, but I guess I can get back up now.
It's we see you on the broadcast just as you come across the line in sort of the back of shot of Helen's shot, and yeah. I think there was a bit of a wave or a fist pump over the line, so you clearly knew that you'd managed to get under Benita's time.
Yeah, well, right before the finish, because you know how when the winner crosses, they stop the clock, and pretty much right before the finish line, it ticked again, and I seen it, and I was just like, I'm gonna do it. So that was really cool, and that was like the first thing before Shannon and I both split ways and just collapsed. The first thing she said to me was, "You did it!" And then we were both like, "I think if you can." The replay I seen was in French, so I'm not sure if it's the same stream that you guys seen, but you see it in the background again. You see us both like be like, "Good job," and she's like, "You did it," and then both of us just flop to the side. And then yeah. Jen came up to me and said, like, make sure you enjoy this. So yeah, it was cool to have like people that knew what it meant to break an Australian record in the same race as me and able to like kind of take that moment with me. So
Yeah, I mean, I've been interviewing you after races since I think the first one was probably your national junior 1500 meter title when you're about 18 or 19.
yeah,
And I've never heard you once in the, however many years it's been since then, talk about being in pain in a race. And every quote I've read from you in text messages
yeah.
and quotes in articles and things has talked about how much that hurt.
It there was nothing like it. I have not experienced that before. With 3 laps to go, I actually did not think I was going to be able to finish. I was like, I've gone out way too hard. I'm way over my head. But in a way, I think the best thing that happened in that last mile was Pete telling me to take a few laps for Shannon, was because it just reset the mentality away from the pain. It was like, I don't need to think about how I feel right now, because I knew how fast, I know how fit Shannon is, and I knew how fast she was trying to run. And it kind of just gave me a task to do in that those like 2 to 3 laps to go was a matter of like, okay, I hurt so bad right now, but I want Shannon to run as fast as she's capable of right now. And if that means I need to just suck it up and keep going, I can do that. But it was a pain like I have not experienced. It's just like a slow, it comes on so slowly. Like you feel good, and then it's like an instantaneous, you don't feel good. It's not the case of it over the next lap or so starts to feel really hard. It was just like from 0 to 100.
So let's talk about the results. So 14:43.80 is the new national record. You're fourth in the race behind the world champion, reigning world champion. That's your equal best performance in a Diamond League after London last year. Anyone who follows Australian athletics will know Tarby stats from David Tarbutton. And so, as he often says, here are your superlatives. So 14:43.80, Australian record by 3.8 seconds over Benita Willis, set 18 years ago in 2002. Fastest outdoor time by an Oceania athlete. The New South Wales record, a 16.5-second personal best, would have been 13th on the world list for 2019, and the first Australian women's national record in a distance event above 3,000 metres for 14 years. And most importantly, the Bankstown Athletics Club and club record. So
Yes.
and I mean, when you go back and you think about, all joking aside, that national record and Benita Willis and the career she's had, of course, the world cross country champion, it's such a trailblazer for Aussie distance running and particularly Aussie women distance running. Have you had a chance, it's been a few days now, to have that sink in of what that really means for you, and keeping in mind that the 5K isn't really your event yet?
Yeah. I think honestly it was this morning on my run. I had 10Ks this morning, and I just was running along and I was thinking about what it all meant. And that was like, it just feels like a pinch me moment. It's just crazy. I didn't think I would be there. I ran the 5K twice in college, like really competitively, and I hated it. And I was like, I don't know why, but it's just something about it in the last 12 months has really grown on me in terms of I've embraced the workouts and I've embraced the races. And I think that was honestly sparked by the 5K that I ran in Berlin last September. And that's the same place that Benita had broken the record in 2002. And to run a 5,000 in that stadium, it just felt really historical. And it was like a great place to kind of have a really positive experience. And but that at that time it was just totally like an unknown to me. So I just ran. And then it kind of ignited the hunger of like, okay, Benita and Eloise have both ran incredibly fast 5Ks, and I want to be a part of that and like look at the careers that they've had and their grit and their like longevity that they had and their range. It just started to sort of show me of like, I don't need to just be in the box of a 1,500-meter runner, as like I can have the range that those women had and still have. They both still run now, so it's like they still have incredible range. But it kind of just opened my eyes to the fact that we don't need to be solely focused on one event. We can be good at all of them if we're willing to do the work for them. And I think Benita she has the Australian record from 3,000 through to the marathon, and that's like she's kind of shown that like it is possible through over time in the course of your career to kind of have a good crack at everything. And I think she set the way for that. And that's definitely something I'd like to do over time. It might take a long time, but over time I'd like to kind of have a go at being good at everything from 1500 up. So we'll see. And that's definitely, she's shown it's possible. And so have people like Eloise and Sarah Jamison have shown us that like you don't just have to be a 1500-meter runner. You can be 1500-meter runner through to the marathon. If you love the sport and you're willing to stay in it for that long, you can conquer it all.
Well, let's talk about the marathon, because you had it's a special night in Monaco, of course. I mean, and you're no stranger to running at famous athletic stadiums around the world. Of course, your University of Oregon career had you based at what will be one of the last athletes ever to run on the old Hayward Field, and hopefully one of the first ones to run on the new Hayward Field. But
I hope so.
Saturday, I keep forgetting the night, Friday night in Monaco, your time, very early Saturday morning here for us. Josh Chep, the guy, also breaks the 5K men's world record, runs 12:35, and you end up having some pretty handy running mates the next morning as well. It must have been a pretty whirlwind 24 hours.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then even in drug testing, I was in drug testing with Tim Ficheriot, Josh Teptegei, Laura Muir. It's like, where on earth does this happen? Like, you're in the same room as these caliber of athletes. And even just like the pre-meet and stuff, as the week has gone by and everyone starts to arrive and you start seeing like Faith Kipyegon in the dining hall and stuff like that. It's just the people that you're around, and it's kind of you have to remind yourself that you belong there too. And I think that was in my dad's good luck message. He sort of said that there's like, you belong out there with them, and make sure you know that kind of thing. So it's pretty incredible to race against people and be in the same place as people of that caliber. And then even just to race in that stadium was like, I remember watching, well, I don't think I watched it live because I remember it being the drive to a state cross country meet held at Eastern Creek when Ryan Gregson broke the Australian record 10 years ago in Monaco. And then I would have watched it, I'm assuming I watched a replay probably that evening and being like, wow, that place looks incredible to run, because of just like the arches and the architecture and the crowd and the track itself. And I think ever since then I've been like, I cannot wait for my chance to run there. And getting to have that this year in the middle of the year we're having, and kind of when they re-released the program for Monaco, when it was going to go ahead, there wasn't a women's 1500 or a mile. So I was like, oh damn, I'm gonna have to wait another year to get my chance to run in Monaco. And then Pete sort of told me I'd been accepted into the 5K, and I was like, whoa, well, I'm gonna be way out of my league, but I get to go to Monaco and I get to race there and experience that setting. And I'm gonna sort of try and have my own little piece of the Monaco magic, and whatever that means this year, it's gonna mean over 5,000 meters instead of what I thought would be my first experience in a 1500.
Well, it's funny how things work out. So you join Ryan as an Australian to break a national record on the Monaco track. But I mean, so you're on a high. You've broken the national record, back to one of the nicer hotels in the world at Monaco, and then have a pretty handy Saturday morning run, or Sunday morning run, I think. Sunday morning long run.
Yeah, so my long run on Sunday was pretty cool. Shannon and I both had to get our long run in. And if anyone's been to Monaco, it's not really distance runner friendly. The town itself, like, it's a lot of pavement and a lot of just populated pathways. So not the best for a long run, but we were lucky enough that Paula Radcliffe lives in Monaco. She lives in Monaco, and she has a holiday house outside of the town. And she knows the trail system pretty well, and she'd done one of her build-ups to the New York Marathon. The year she won the New York Marathon, she'd done her last month of training in Monaco over this long run loop that we did. And it was very hilly, not perfect terrain. Like, it just definitely perfect for leading into a New York Marathon, because that's pretty tough course and very technical course. So she met us and sort of showed us the ropes of that loop, and got to run with her for the first 20 minutes or so of my run, and just listen to her kind of I just sort of listened to both her and Shannon chatting away, and they've both got children and stuff now. And when Shannon first met Paula, her daughter was the same age as what Shannon's daughter is now. So that's kind of crazy because her daughter is 13 now. So they've known each other for a while. But it was just it was very cool to listen to Paula's insights of the meet itself in general and how she thought people had raced and what she thought about Chapter Guy and things like that. It was just really, really, really cool to be a kind of a fly on the wall to those conversations, and pretty lucky to have someone like her be able to show us around and make sure we got a good quality long run in. So couldn't ask for more.
She inspired you to step up to the marathon? No, not just yet.
Definitely not just yet. I think
it's still a bit far.
Dad had biked with me for one of my long runs a few weeks ago before I left home, and it was a 15 miler. And I said to him immediately after that, like, I'd had a solid run and I really enjoyed the run. And I just said to him, I said, I cannot imagine running for like another 50, 55 minutes. Like it just doesn't appeal to me just yet. But I love the sport so much that I will explore it eventually when I run out of track speed.
So you have a travel day yesterday and you've found your way up to Sweden.
Yes.
Talk about, give us an insight into what's coming up next and what's on the horizon. You've obviously, it's still a very strange time around the world, particularly to be traveling internationally. You're obviously going to have to get back here at some point. So what's the plan for the next little while?
Yeah, it's just it's definitely different to a normal year where you kind of have your intended races lined up, because right now meets are changing very quickly, like depending on the social distancing and stuff. There's a meet in France that has a 3,000 on it that I would really like to get into, but it looks like that meet's probably not going to go ahead now, and that's only as of yesterday because France reinstated some social distancing rules. So it's a really good time for me to remember to be adaptable, and that like it doesn't have to be perfect. So I think that's the mantra of this trip, is like it doesn't matter, like nothing is set in stone. So yeah, right now my next race is in Gothenburg, Sweden, on the 29th of August, and that will be a 1500. And then I know I will run another 1500 in Berlin on September 13th, but everything in between is just going to be in the moment, kind of on the fly, whatever looks like a good opportunity that's safe to get to and isn't going to be over the top of extreme travel or extreme layovers or anything. We'll take those little opportunities, but for the focus will be Gothenburg 1500 and Berlin 1500. And then from there, potentially I might go to the Doha Diamond League, but that depends on how Doha approaches letting people in for that meet. That's September 25th. And then after that, I will return to Australia and I will do my hotel quarantine. So I assume I'm going to be returning around the same time as the other 6 Aussie distance runners who are over here. So maybe we'll all end up in the same place. But yeah, so right now I'm trying not to think about the hotel quarantine because things change so quickly. So I'm like, I know that I'm going to have to do it, but a part of me is hopeful that maybe by the 1st of October I can isolate at home. I don't like my chances of that, but I knew that coming over here was that if I was going to come over and take these opportunities, I was going to have to do my time when I come home. And honestly, doing some travel back and forth and even just yesterday traveling to Sweden, there's a lot of people in one place in those airports, and no matter how hard you try, the social distancing is not always easy to adhere to. So I do definitely understand that when I come home, I'll have to quarantine, and I think that that's probably the safest thing definitely is the safest thing. So I understand it and I'll cop it.
You might have to get a bit better at running on the treadmill again, back to earlier this year. So at least you're in practice.
Yeah, well, it's if anything, it's more mental training than it is physical. So, wherever you get the gains from.
You talked about being adaptable, which is obviously so important this year. I mean, I think we're only a few days out from when you and I were both supposed to be in Tokyo, albeit in slightly different capacities. You were meant to be running the heats of the 1500, and I had a ticket to watch you. Have you had a chance to? I mean, it's been such a whirlwind that I imagine it's a mix of emotions where you were meant to be making an Olympic debut. Probably a favourite to make an Olympic final. You don't get the chance to do that. You may not get the chance to do that next year either. But you've managed to break an Australian record in Monaco. I imagine there's a fair mix of emotion in all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Especially that first week of August when it was like when we should have been in Tokyo. I think I'd done a very good job of just focusing on the training until that point, and then as you sort of see in the media, it's just like we should have been in Tokyo this week, and it's really hard to actually fathom how this 2020 would have gone on a normal sequence. Like it's weird to kind of think that like I would have raced at Prefontaine and things like that would have happened. It's just it seems so far from what we have. So it's just like it's hard to picture what that perfect year would have looked like if it was how it was supposed to go. Definitely, yeah, the thought that we may not get an Olympics next year, that is pretty heartbreaking because I don't know, it's like when you look at going back to like Benita and Eloise and those women and the careers they've had, they're 3 and 4 time Olympians. And I'm young enough that like I I would hope that I could potentially be a 3 or 4 time Olympian. That the thought of maybe one of them just getting taken away from me is pretty heartbreaking. But for right now, it's still there. So don't waste some energy thinking about that until it's actually a factor, if it does become a factor. But yeah, kind of just the Australian record in the 5K was like the motivator for the base training and the stuff that I've done while I was training at home. And I think I had hoped that I was going to get an opportunity to have a go at it. So it kind of definitely was the light at the end of the tunnel as an attempt. But it's still a big privilege to have been able to come over here and actually action that in place. So yeah, it's been the motivator, but to be able to actually do it when we didn't know what the year was going to look like it's a big win in a year that just felt like it was a few hits in a row there.
Well, speaking for everyone out here, it's been a welcome pick me up for all of us watching you run, and a lot of us have watched you from your early to mid teenage years running, and I think we're all very, very proud of you in the Australian distance running community. You've given us something to smile about. So I think this is your first interview since breaking the record of substance. So I think everyone will be really pleased to hear you reflect on the race and what it's meant to you. So we'll let you get back to whatever it is you need to be doing on what it is a Monday in Sweden. But thanks so much for taking the time to have a chat to us. And from a very grateful Aussie distance running community, thanks for taking the time to chat to us.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for taking the time that gets the Bankstown track project out on the world stage.
Thanks, Jess. We're going to see you soon.
Thanks, Matt.